thank you very much for joining here. You just gave your keynote here at the EAWOP Congress. And first, what I would like to know from you is how did you come to be interested in diversity and discrimination in the workplace, your area of research?
I grew up in a very remote town in the Midwest of the United States, Wisconsin. And I went to a school that was an all-women's school in Massachusetts. And for 4 years, I learned about the plight of women. So the women's college called Smith College really focused on making us aware of the women and the men who fought for the right to vote and who were advocating for gender-related rights. And for 4 years, I think I went in not being very much of a feminist, and I came out feeling like it was really my job to pay it forward and to make sure that the next generation had it better than me. And that generalized not only to women, but to groups that don't have the rights that majority groups do.
Studies, you address a broad array of stigma, or group X as you called it, diverse groups such as not only gender but also disability and obesity. We just saw some nice examples. So how would you define diversity? What's your is there some overarching
so I just recently read this book, and it's by Melissa Gates, and it's called The Power of Lift. And as I exercise, I was listening to it on tape, and I thought how wonderful and how in sync it was with a lot of the research that I do. And what she talked about was that every life is equal, every life is just as important as another. And so when I think about diversity and discrimination, I think about people whose lives have been delegated as not as important. And that's really what I want to do, is make sure everybody is heard and that everybody does have a voice and a spot at the table.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. If you would maybe overlooking your 20 years of research, like what would be then your main message that you would like to convey, take out?
Okay, I think that, so let me just say that my dad was one of 17 children. Okay, so on one side I have 55 first cousins, very large family.
You know them all?
I know them all. In fact, I know them better than I know the cousins on my mother's side. It's just a big family with a lot of love. And what I think about is how for family events, when we didn't have enough space, we would use the ping pong table as a table, right? Because there's room for everyone. And so one of my sort of mantras is there's room for everyone. There's room for everybody at the table. Pull up a chair and let's widen the circle. So I really believe in inclusion. I believe in celebration of everything so we can learn from people's differences. So this is what I am, this is my heritage. Oh, what's yours? Every person is a biography, and my job is to get to learn what's special about you, what do you love, and to celebrate that and to celebrate our differences.
Yes, that's one of those very inclusive way of thinking. Sometimes I find that the research in that area also, get some responses that are more like, so why do we need to pay all this special attention to all these groups? It's more like a nice hobby or a left-wing hobby, so to speak, to think about inclusion and it's also a hotly debated social topic in that sense. So how do you deal with it? How do you deal with these kinds of critiques or questioning the need to do research and to really get that message across?
Well, I think this is a very good question, and one that I like to give an example of, and that's that if I meet a heart surgeon, this heart surgeon has been trained for maybe 7 10 years, and I would never go, well, this is how you do heart surgery. I've seen a couple videos on it. It's actually like been on television. I know how to do heart surgery. Somehow, because people feel like they know diversity or because they have an experience, they feel like they should weigh in on my expertise, which is the expertise, the science of diversity. And this is a common thing for psychology, right? Psychology as a whole, people say, I know psychology, I interact with people on a daily basis, I know what the findings are. And what any psychologist will say is actually there's a lot of common beliefs that are wrong, right? They're wrong, like birds of a feather flock together or opposites attract. You could say each one of those makes sense, what's really shown by the research. And so by the same token, I like to remind people that diversity really is a science. It's not something that should be thrown around just as identity politics or that everybody should render their opinion on. There really are some facts. So one fact is that there are a lot of good things that come when we use diversity, okay? There are some tough things. There are some things that make it hard. We like to interact with people who are like us. It's easier. But one of the things we know is better decisions are made, more creative, more innovative decisions, more accurate decisions are made when we use more diverse types of people. If it weren't for diversity, certain fields of knowledge would not have been founded and gained. There is so much good of diversity, and our job as diversity experts is to figure out how to harness it in a really positive way.
So thank you for these inspiring words. As a last question, maybe in a few sentences, what advice would you give to young scholars who would like to become very good in this area of research?
Well, I would say we need you. We need you. And I like to say that diversity research or discrimination research is a really good field to be in, because if you're doing research on it and you find no differences, so you find discrimination is not happening, that's a bad result for getting published, but it's a really good social, societal event. If you find that diversity or let's say discrimination is happening, then it's a really bad social event, but it's really good for publishing. So you're always winning, okay? I like to see the glass half full. But I would in reality say that I think that since the beginning of time, we've seen people in positions of power and the positions of lack of power, and that we really need this. We need people to be studying diversity and to figure out how we can use it in the most successful ways. And the groups that are discriminated today may not be the groups that are discriminated against tomorrow, but tomorrow's groups may not have been the ones that were discriminated against yesterday. So diversity is a business that is alive and well, and we're going to need more people to figure out how to prevent discrimination and how to work together. And we see this not only within countries, but between countries and just globally. We need to figure out how to work together.
Okay. Well, thank you for these words, and I like the thought that you always get something
Yes,
out of it.
you do.
And thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.